My name is Robert, and I am from the U.S. I come from a large family. I have 2 brothers and 5 sisters, and I grew up in a Christian family. My parents have always been the strongest Christians that I know, and I'm very thankful for that. When I was a child, I often read the Bible. I had to memorize the Bible. I went to church every Sunday, of course. I went to Sunday school. Almost all of my friends were Christians. And I was also homeschooled. I never went to public school. My mom taught us kids at home. And I'm also thankful for that as well. Well, when I was growing up, I never thought about the Catholic Church. I never heard about the Catholic Church. Nobody ever talked to me about the Catholic Church. I think because I was born into a Christian home, I took my faith for granted. I think I always thought, I'm a Christian because my parents are Christians, my whole family is Christian, and so I didn't think very much about my own faith. But as I got older, and after I left my house and went out into the world, I think I really began to lose my faith in some way. I began to live my life for myself. I had my dreams. I had my goals. I went to university. I traveled. I got my first job. And on the outside, I was a good person. You know, on the outside, everybody looked at me and they said, "Oh, Robert's a good guy. He's a good person." But inside, I don't think I really believed very much. I think I really believed in myself more than I believed in God. So one problem that I had in my 20s and my 30s was church. Where to go to church? That's a problem that we have in America because we have so many churches. We have thousands of churches, and the churches are different. You know, some churches, people like to dance and sing, and you know, the music is very fun. Other churches, people are more quiet and formal. And in America and around the world too, churches, Protestant churches, they say different things. So you go to this church over here, and this church will say something, and you go over here, and this church says something completely different. And so it's hard to know. It was always hard for me to know, where should I go to church? And so I visited many different churches in my 20s and my 30s. And I was always confused. Who has the truth? Who is telling the truth? How do I know if this pastor is speaking for God, or maybe he just made it all up? I don't know. And so I really began questioning myself. Where should I go to church, and where can I find the truth? So one day I was talking to a friend, and the friend was telling me about a priest that he knew, a Catholic priest. And the friend told me that, he said, "I've been talking to this Catholic priest, and I've been learning about Catholicism, and I realized that Catholicism is different than what I thought. Catholicism goes back a very long ways. It has a very long history, and there are a lot of things about Catholicism that Protestants don't understand." So I thought, that's interesting. And I went home and I started reading about Catholicism on the internet. I think I started with Wikipedia. You've heard of Wikipedia, I'm sure. Not a very good source, but I started with Wikipedia, and pretty soon I was on this journey. I started just reading and watching everything that I could find, and I spent a whole year studying the Catholic Church. I really wanted to know, what is this church and how is it different than the Protestant church? I was scared of this process because my family, my friends, they were all evangelical Protestants, and I knew they would be unhappy if I became Catholic. So for the first time in my life, I began to pray. I got down on my knees every day and I said, Lord, if this is the right way for me, if this is the right journey, help me to know and show me. And so I started going to Mass. I went to my first Mass. I remember my first Mass. I think my first Mass was a feast day for Mary. That was my first Mass, maybe in November or December. And I began going to classes at my church. We call that RCIA in the US. And I just began learning. And I was shocked by what I learned. Here's a church that goes all the way back to Christ. The church that I was in, the Protestant church, went back 20 years. That was it. But here's a church that goes all the way back to Christ. And here's a church that doesn't rely on just one person to preach. We have the Pope, we have the bishops, we have the cardinals, we have tradition, we have the Bible, we have all these different things, and the truth is found in all of those things. As a Protestant, I was told that if I wanted to know the truth, I had to read the Bible. Only the Bible. The Bible and my pastor, that was the truth. But again, my pastor said something different than the other pastor. But they were reading the same Bible. They were reading the same thing. And so I realized that the Catholic Church was giving me the truth through 2,000 years of tradition. And my eyes began to open, and I began to realize that for the first time, I was encountering the truth. So after 10 months of studying and learning, in my heart, I knew that God was telling me, you have to join the Catholic Church. You must. There's no choice. And so I began to prepare for that day. And in 2015, Easter of 2015, I joined the Catholic Church. And to be honest, I didn't tell a lot of people in the beginning. I waited to tell people. But I did tell my parents. I told my parents a few months before I converted, and they were very sad. My dad, especially, was very emotional. My dad told me that, he said, Robert, you are breaking communion with your family. Because as a Protestant, I could have communion with my family, but now as a Catholic, I couldn't take communion. And my mom was also unhappy as well about this. But after I became Catholic, I felt such joy and peace. I knew that it was the right decision to make. And I was very thankful that the Lord had brought me into the Catholic Church because my whole life changed. My whole life. Becoming Catholic, it transformed me. I started praying. Of course, I started taking the Eucharist, and it changed me. It was like a miracle. So I was very thankful for that. Now, my parents, after I became Catholic, they began asking some questions. They began just maybe once every month, we would talk on the phone, and they would ask me some questions. At first, it was more like arguing a little bit. You know, the questions were more like, why do you do this? And we don't think that that's biblical. And I would answer their questions. I was very patient. And I never proselytized them. The word proselytize means I never tried to convert them to Catholicism. I just answered their questions. Well, as time went on, my parents began to soften a little bit towards Catholicism. And I have a son who took his first communion back in 2018. And my parents came to be there for his first communion. And it was a beautiful service, a beautiful mass, beautiful music, a great homily. And my parents got to see the Eucharist for the first time. And my mom said, wow, this is amazing. All of these people going up to take communion together. This is real fellowship. And so my parents were very blessed by that. Well, my mom and my dad, they began reading about the Catholic Church. My dad read the Catechism of the Catholic Church, and they started watching some videos and listening to the radio. And a couple of years ago, this was in 2021, my dad called me and he said, Robert, I am going to take the class at the Catholic Church. He said, I'm not going to join. I'm not going to join. He said, I just want to learn more about the Catholic faith. And I said, well, is mom going to go? And he said, I don't think she's going to go, just me. Well, a few weeks later, I learned that they were both in RCIA. And in the Easter of 2022, both of my parents joined the Catholic Church. It was, still now I can't believe it. It's amazing. And I think that the Catholic Church changed their lives as well. I have seen so many positive changes. And my parents were already very good, devout Christians. But I think that becoming Catholic changed their relationship with each other and with our family as well. So when people ask me, why did I become Catholic? There's one word that I can use to describe why I became Catholic, and that is the word authority. Authority. The Catholic Church has the true authority that I was searching for my whole life. And now I don't have to worry about the truth. Who's telling the truth, who's not telling the truth. The Catholic Church is a church that goes all the way back to Christ. And of course, Christ is truth. Christ is the Word of God. And so I can trust that the Catholic Church is giving me the truth. So since becoming Catholic, I have traveled to many different religious sites, Catholic sites, like here in Medjugorje. I don't know if I still didn't get it right. Okay, I can never pronounce that word correctly. Help me. Medjugorje, yes. I've also been to Our Lady of Guadalupe and Fatima as well. And I love our Mother Mary. I pray the Rosary almost every day. The Rosary is a very powerful prayer. I have seen the Rosary change my life and change other people's lives. And I am so thankful for our mother because she really does listen to our prayers and she watches over us. And I'm very grateful for that. So that is my testimony in a nutshell. Any questions?
Cuéntanos un poco de lo que ahora tú haces para ayudar a la Iglesia Católica.
Okay, that's a good question. So one thing that I do is I have a little shop, a little online shop where I sell rosaries and I sell crucifixes and items like that. And I give away a lot. So if someone needs a rosary, I will send them a rosary for free. When I came here on this trip, I emailed my customers and I told them, I'm coming here and I will pray for you. And so they sent me their prayer requests and I am praying for my customers, for their families, for their health, for many different things going on. So that's one way that I've gotten to serve in the Catholic Church. Yes, I also have a pretty unique job that I can't talk about very much, unfortunately. But this job allows me to work with Christians who are suffering, Christians and Catholics who are suffering for their faith. And there are many, many people around the world who are suffering right now because they believe in Christ. In some countries, it's illegal to be a Christian. In some countries, it's illegal to go to church. And so I have had the opportunity to meet with those Christians and provide encouragement to them. When I'm traveling, I often encounter suffering, people who are suffering. There are people who, for example, a family in China whose father is in prison because he is a pastor and the government put him in prison because he was talking about Jesus. And I got to spend time with his family, pray with his family, provide some help for his family. For me, that's humbling because I live in America where it's very free. Like here, you can worship, you can talk about God, but in some countries, if you talk about God, you're going to get arrested. And so for me, it's humbling because I feel like in America, I don't talk about God very much. I should talk about God more, but I'm too shy. Or I think, what will people think if I talk about God? But in some of these countries where it is illegal to talk about God, there are people who are talking about God, and they're going to jail. But me in America, what am I doing? What do I do? So that's what's touched me, is when I meet with people who suffer for Christ, it encourages me to talk to people that I know about Christ, because we should be evangelizing. The Catholic Church, Pope Francis has talked about the new evangelization. We should be out there talking to people and evangelizing, like you. Yeah.